welcome back to another Old Dan Adventures. We got kind of a special one for you today. We're here at the Swenson House. I got a guided tour, so we'll have somebody to explain the house to us today. And we'll have a lot of nice things to look at today inside the house. I hope you guys enjoy it. Like and subscribe, of course, and share. So let's go inside and check it out now.
That was in the pond originally, and when the Swensons all died or left and gave the house to the APL, there was a lot of vandalism. So they brought it inside to try to keep it safe, and nobody's trusted it outside, which is probably a good choice.
Yeah.
The Corinthian columns are also replicas from the palace. The hotel, you used to be able to go on the hotel website and you could see a column on the third floor like that, and like a fifth story staircase, but now they're all modern. So it's like they replaced it, but well, they had a lot of the staircases redone in the 50s. You know, this was an 1890s kind of build, but they still had one of these and at least one of those in their photos, and now there is nothing there. So
they got one of these just like this one. Was some in a better shape, but over at the Buffalo Gap Historic. Yes, in the schoolhouse. Yeah. Just like that.
They really liked listening to records, so this is they would come in here and they would listen to opera on Sundays.
That is old. It's nice.
This was his office. He ran the West Texas Utilities Company for, well, so about 5 years before his death, for like 50 years.
Wow.
He was also the first valedictorian at Abilene High.
Oh, nice.
And owned a bank, insurance company, brought the trolley to town, so we got public transportation, got 24-hour electricity in Abilene, took electricity out to the surrounding towns. I mean, somebody would have done that anyway,
right,
but he was the one in charge. Well, we had electricity when he got involved with the, so we already had it, Abilene already had it, but it was only for certain hours, and once he got in, it became 24 hour. He also owned the ice company. Didn't think we had enough railroad access, so he and some partners from town brought in Abilene and Northern, or Northern and Abilene Railroad. So here.
The trolley, is that the same trolley that runs in October?
That used to, yeah, they got rid of them because they didn't want to deal with them anymore.
Oh,
but
don't
yeah,
do it no more?
No.
Oh.
But Mr. Swenson created that back in the 20s for public transportation. Right. And the very first day that it operated, it would run from Ambler up by Hardin Simmons down to South 7th and Sales. And so it was a Sunday, and since he was the owner, he decided to be the operator. All of his friends got on in their fancy clothes with their gloves and hats and Sunday outfits. Rode it from HSU over to South 7th and Sales, and the brakes failed.
Oh no.
And so it just kept going through a barbed wire fence into a big muddy field, and then it stopped. It was hurt, but I'm sure a lot of clothes were messed up. So the house was originally built in the 10s, and then in 1928 they remodeled. So this particular piece, a lot of the lighting is from the remodel. Also, the flocked wallpaper is from the remodel. Prior to that, these were round white globes, and the wallpaper was just white cheesecloth. So that is from the 1928 remodel. So are the lamps here. They were just round. That one, all of those were just round globes from 1910 until 28 when they remodeled. The house is Louisiana cypress and Michigan oak. They owned a house on Mulberry that was built of pine because that was what was available here, and it caught fire. And
Oh, goodness.
pine burns quickly because it never dries out the resin.
The turpentine.
Yeah, and so it just burnt down. So he was like, no pine. We're doing cypress, we're doing oak, we're going to be safe. One of the things about this house that's unusual for the day is that they have big closets. Now, they're not pretty because we now have stuffed everything in them, but let me show you. Yeah, beautiful doorknobs. And we've had recent vandalism that ruined one of those. Somebody shot a gun through one.
Oh, serious?
But if you look, that's a pretty dang big closet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
For the day, yeah.
yeah, it's huge. Okay, and they built this house. He worked with Weston, who was the architect, and I'm sure Mrs. Swenson was like, I want this and I need this. But for instance, there are 4 window seats under the windows at the front,
Oh, nice.
and each of them has a storage unit in it.
Nice.
Okay, and then they have that big closet. They also have one of the typical smaller closets in the mud room. Okay. So they had, if you saw, the driveway comes up through, I don't know what the old name for it is, the French name is Porte Cochet, where you parked, I guess. I don't normally recommend parking under there because people don't know how wide their cars are.
Right.
But there's a little bitty closet in here, and it's the normal size of closet from this era because this was the mud room. Also, you'll notice they made significant differences. If it's a normal door, it's tall.
Oh, yeah.
If it's a small storage, it's short. And it's about 5 inches deep.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's very
just
small.
the width
That
of
is
the
very
door.
small.
Okay, so it's where you'd like throw your wet coat or your boots. They purchased a 1720s cookie jar that people in Abilene were impressed with enough that it got put in the newspaper.
Wow.
And I've seen porcelain in a cookie jar.
And candles.
The candlesticks are way more fragile. We've had to, people multiple times have had to fix those. The cookie jar is in pretty good shape.
Is that silver?
It's probably plate. We don't really silver out. But one of the things that people did in the 10s and 20s was they would order blanks from Limoges or whatever, and then they would hand paint them. This is hand painted by Mrs. Swenson. She was an artist and she painted that. She also painted some other things. This is built in. This particular room is obviously a dining room, and the sideboard is built in so they can keep china in there. I believe that is their china one set anyway, and it is their glassware from that era, because my great grandmother had similar glass pieces, so I recognize it. But also, this is the only room in the house that has rounded corners, and it's because if you stand at that end behind that other chair, go stand at that end.
Yeah.
Okay, now normally if you go to a dinner party, you can only talk to the people next to you.
Right.
Because it's too loud, the sound gets lost. So this room was designed so you could talk the full table together.
And not be so loud. That's pretty cool.
He did a lot of research to get what he wanted in this house. So the 1910 version of the house was a wraparound porch and wood. 1928, they added the brick outside. Took down the wraparound porch. The columns had moved into the garden on the side. But he had the lead windows reproduced so that they would look the same on the outside as they did on the inside. So there's a double set of those.
Yeah. You can see that.
And they have a butler's pantry, which, you know, we call it that because we think of the servants being in the kitchen. But Mrs. Swenson was the family cook. They did not have in-house servants, except after their youngest was born here, they brought in a nanny from Sweden because Mr. Swenson wanted the kids to speak Swedish and Mrs. Swenson didn't speak Swedish. So they brought in a nanny. That's the only in-house help they had. She cooked and everything. So this was her butler's pantry, not, you know, somebody else's. She used it. This is their china from Abilene. And then the kitchen, the Swensons lived here, family, for 80 years, okay? So Mr. and Mrs. Swenson built this house when they had 3 little kids. They lived here, they had a 4th kid here, they grew their kids up here. Their daughter got married, got divorced, came home, lived across the street with her daughter. Right. And Mrs. Swenson had always just been the cook and not shared that job with anybody. She didn't want anybody else in her kitchen. But when her grandbaby moved across the street, she'd let Shug come in, okay? This is their oven from the 40s. It's kind of cool. It's the original crock pot.
Oh, wow.
You would have it down there so it wouldn't, you could get into it without having to reach in, right? So this is, obviously we've replaced the refrigerator, but if you come this way, this is the original icebox. So we got it repainted this year. None of that brass was messed up and we have not gotten it fixed yet. So.
That whole thing is?
Yeah, so what would happen is there's doors, there's metal, okay?
Oh, wow.
This is actually from 1936. It's a Westinghouse vegetable drawer.
Wow.
Okay.
That is cool.
So it would, you put your veggies in there, or Frigidaire. It was a Frigidaire.
Frigidaire, wow.
Okay. And you put your veggies in there and it'd help keep them cool. All right. See. This has been added for safety just in the last few years. But prior to that, you would just come up and there would be nothing there. The Iceman would come, and they own the ice company, but the Iceman would come, you would put a number in your window, and that would say how many pounds of ice you want.
Wow.
He'd come on a truck, he'd get those big pinchers, he'd pick it up, he'd open this, and that goes behind that ice box. And he'd shove the ice in there, close it up, and you'd have cold for your ice box.
That's crazy.
Okay, so she never had to worry about getting out and getting that. I'm going to take you downstairs just because I think it's cool. Maybe other people won't. This window chute from Holland, somebody, it patented in 1908, okay? And what would happen is you could see whether you needed coal by looking through the window.
Wow.
All right? And you would pull it out. Now, obviously, we painted it so, and made sure it won't open.
Right.
But you would pull it open and a metal plate would close over the glass so that it wouldn't mess it up, and then you could just shovel your coal in from outside.
Wow.
So again, the furnace is downstairs, the heater's downstairs, they deliver here, they don't have to go in your house. And this particular was patented in 1908, and then the house was built in 1910. Mr. Swenson was paying attention to the newts, okay? Yeah. He was definitely interested in getting the best and the most recent stuff. The light switches are the old plate.
Oh wow, push buttons.
Yeah, and that's pretty common for a long time. So the floor is original, the radiators are original.
Yeah, I like those. Those are
We
really
did
neat
have
looking.
to redo the electricity. He wired the house himself, but of course back then it would have been knob and tube. But he wired the house and he overwired the house, expecting to need more electricity as time went on.
Right.
So you come over here and you come this way. This is my other favorite thing in the house.
Oh, wow.
And it is the original fuse box, and it was in use until 1999 or 2000
Wow.
when we had to replace the air conditioning units and they pulled too much.
Mm.
In 1910,
Wow.
and it was in use for almost 90 years. I mean, it was in use for...
That's, yeah.
And so, we used to have glass, but they cut the piece out so it would show up because it's just
Yeah.
pretty,
It
you
is.
know?
It's really nice looking. For
So-
as old as it is.
So I said that the doors were different heights. So this tells you this is an important door,
Mm-hmm.
and those tell you this is storage. And you can see the similar in here. So these are important doors, and that is storage.
Huh.
Okay? This, which is covered up. Come on. Is the rest of the laundry chute.
Oh, wow.
Oh my
So there's one upstairs where
Mhm.
all the bedrooms were, and then the kitchen you're cleaning and you want to not, you throw it in there and it would go all the way down into the basement into a big tub,
Right.
and once a week a local washerwoman would come, go knock on the back door, go down the very steep basement stairs,
Oh, my goodness.
and pull all your clothes out of the tub,
Mm-hmm.
put them in her vehicle, and then take them, wash them, dry them, fold them, iron them, and then bring them back.
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay? Because there were no washers and dryers.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You would have a washer that was about this big, and it had a ring piece on it if it was really fancy. Otherwise, you had to do it, you know, on the old washboards, and you would just crank it. So, I mean, where would you put that?
Right.
So you would have, I mean, people really did, if they had any money, have somebody else do their laundry, right?
Yeah.
Now, we pride ourselves in our lovely pantries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pantries weren't a thing for a long time, right? Nobody had pantries. Mrs. Swenson, she had a pantry.
Oh, my goodness. A whole walk-in closet.
And if there's a window so that she would not ever pretty much be in the dark,
Right.
okay? But also, if you go in, that shelf has, and the shelf above it, has stuff that was actually still in the house. Yeah, well, that's because we have coffee clutches here. We have this sulfur is from the 20s. Why did they need that? I don't know, but they still had it. This is from the 70s. Because they
Wow.
lived here for 80 years, right?
Right.
So these are set up with some of their things. This was her tea rack. Kitchen towels and
Right.
whatever, so she could wash them out in the sink and then have them, if she needed to, dry right here. There is an old sink in the basement, and these were down there. They just brought them up this week because we've been trying to, we have so many events here and such.
Yeah.
We're trying to, we do events so we can keep the house in good shape,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have to have all the stuff, and where do you put it?
Right.
So we try not to fill up the, well,
Rest
we
of the
used,
house.
yeah, but there's only so much you can do with that, and so they're trying to, okay, we can have this here, and we'll take that there.
Right.
And the downstairs is full with our Halloween decorations, because we were the first haunted house in Abilene,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the major fundraiser still, even though there's now like 20 haunted houses in
Right.
Abilene. And we have Christmas decorations down there, because we do the whole house for Christmas, and then we have an open house, and you can come and get your family photos here. I mean, you have to pay the tour fee, but you come in and you can get your family photos here, and it is just gorgeous. So we have a whole downstairs full of that. When the house was originally built, this was a window, which is why it looks like a window. And this was a back porch that wasn't part of the 3 wraparounds. When they bricked it in, Mrs. Swenson said she wanted a kitchen. She wanted a breakfast room. And my guess is that they ate in here in teens, right? She got up early, she cooked, right. Mr. Swenson ate with her, and then he went to work. Then she got the kids up, they came in, she fed them, then they went to school. It was not you couldn't get 6 people in there, okay? No. It looks horrible now because it's our office, so everything we have to figure out is in there, but. And then again, these doors, these are, storage, so the cleaning supplies. Neither does this phone.
That's an old phone.
Wow. They had a half bath, and this wallpaper has been redone, but it is the exact same pattern that they last had in the bathroom, but it's larger. So the pattern that they had was pretty small. We didn't realize there was a difference, but it was the exact pattern, so we ordered it. Then we got it, and instead of being this big, the flowers were this big. Because somebody found the original paper and kind of blew it up, right? Then when we were taking it off, we found 5 layers of wallpaper, then the cheesecloth, then the big boards that are so fancy. It has a medicine cabinet. Well, let's leave that. It has its own little storage unit for the toilet paper and the towels. So this was a guest room only.
I noticed they have the medicine cabinet over the
radiator
instead of over the sink.
Yeah.
Like normally they do nowadays.
And the corner sink to make sure there was space. Okay? Remember, when this house was built, they were wearing clothes. Ladies were wearing long dresses, some of them very full. Right. You come in, you need room space. Most of the furniture is there. A lot of it has been recovered because, 90 years of furniture use is going to do that.
Right.
This was their piano. They did require that the children learn to play. Those are family pictures. Wow. A lot of the tchotchkes are era related, but not the Swensons. People donate old stuff that they don't want, but is era to the house. Our biggest renovation project that we just finished is the wallpaper. Oh, nice. The wallpaper was put up in 1928. It was pieces about 4 feet wide. And it had 3 different sets of pictures. So it had a tall tree with the grasses. It had a shorter tree like this over here by the bookshelf. And it had, because they're smaller. All right. So it also had just grasses. Here there was a slice from all the way down to here. Somebody had decided to do their math homework on it when they were here. There were holes in it from people putting up paintings, okay, because they lived here for a long time. And it was on cheesecloth. So the cheesecloth was sagging. So where the paper wasn't thin and breaking, it was sagging. So we took it down, we cut up pieces, we sent it to a restoration wallpaper place in New York. They redid it, the colors were really off. We had put something over it because it was so fragile we were afraid it would break.
Yeah.
And apparently that changed the color.
Oh,
So
wow.
then we had to send pieces that hadn't been that and just hope they didn't fall apart in the trip up there. And the interesting thing about it is the major picture, okay, the browns, the greens, were part of the original wallpaper. And then someone came in and hand painted the other colors into it.
Nice.
So we were looking at 100-year-old wallpaper with 100-year-old paint. How do you fix that? We actually had tried to talk to a restoration wallpaperist.
Mm-hmm.
They got sick during COVID and could no longer work, so that didn't go anywhere. So then we had to figure out what else to do. So this is as close as we could get. We have no idea what it looked like when it was new.
Right.
None of us were alive.
Yeah.
You know, and in fact, I'm pretty sure their granddaughter who comes to visit was not alive when
Right.
it was
When it looked good, yeah.
new. But we had it done. It's the same picture. It's a close facsimile, and it looks beautiful with
Yeah,
the colors that were in here. So
Oh, no, fits the room real good. Pretty nice.
Holy moly.
the bookshelf is closed in with the art glass, and that art glass matches the art glass that is at the front door.
A really short table.
Yeah, well, that was a thing in the 50s. Was everybody pretended they were 4 feet 2. I had a great grandmother that was pretty close to that, but really nobody else was.
Right.
So, same art glass, same art glass.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, wow.
Really?
As a skylight. And then 2 pieces that are more in line with Tiffany style as opposed to arts and crafts, mission sort of thing. We're in his office.
Oh, yeah. There, yeah, same kind of deal.
They did travel some, so these were theirs from Turkey. I believe those were also theirs, but don't know where they were from.
And then that little one also kind of matches you ones.
Oh, that's probably somebody said, oh, look, it matches. I don't know that that was theirs.
Okay.
The 2 big ones are. But this particular piece is horsehair underneath, which is very common, okay? It makes it very, very, it's not soft, it's not poofy. Firm, that's the word. But also look at the beautiful carving on this.
Very nice.
And that's a chair.
Yeah.
You know?
Very nice looking chair. My favorite color, too.
This piece was given to the family from the Swedish embassy or Swedish something. Mr. Swenson's father's uncle, so it goes back a little ways, was the first Swede to live in Texas.
Oh,
He
wow.
worked for Sam Houston. He came here prior to independence, and he wrote home and said, hey, send folks here. There's space. There's fortunes to be made. This is their closed-in back porch once they took out the wraparound porch. And all the windows would open so you would get a cross breeze across the house.
Oh, yeah.
It was very, very nice. Or it's a new one that's been made to look old.
Oh,
I can't remember which one it is. The Magnavox is really old. I don't know. Look at these light fixtures. Those are from 1928. And then this is Merchant. This is 17th. This is the house plot. So the house is a, you know, it's a whole block. There was a time when 18th is here. 18th wasn't there. They had to move, let them come in and build there. This is a map of the area. I don't remember when this was done, 1925. So that's what Abilene as a whole looked like.
They had a kind of a similar one also at the Buffalo Gap Historic Village. Actually, it's kind of bigger, but
well,
it shows all the plots.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, he owned 54 acres, so a lot of this land was his originally.
oh wow!
So yeah, you can buy a Swenson House. They're replica. And you'll notice that there is a significant mix of styles. Okay, we've got Corinthian, we've got the arches, we've got the squared off arts and crafts, we've got the Tiffany windows, we've got the mission style windows, we've got, well, arts and crafts style windows. They just put in whatever they liked, and they did not worry about being consistent. These are matching one of the missions down in San Antonio. They thought these were beautiful. I have looked online over and over again. As far as I can tell, this is the only house that has these windows.
Wow.
And they put in 3 of them, which is kind of interesting. Because, okay, there are 2. You can see them from the road. That makes them look important. They've got the built-in seats again with brass up here so you can pull it easily. But the 3rd window is in the ensuite, in the oldest son's bedroom. So this was the oldest son's bedroom, Earl. Okay, and y'all are looking at it going, it's pink. But pink was light red until the 1920s or 30s, when different people say different people, but Sears was one of the people that was behind the push to switch light blue from being girls to like pink being girls. But like HSU, their original colors, they got down to a vote of pink and white or purple and gold. So,
okay.
Yeah. So this was their oldest son's bedroom, and this is the original bathroom. Now, all the tiles are probably original, and they were probably installed in the original bathroom. What I don't know is whether the lucite or bakelite was original or was changed out in the 28. But if you look, there's a soap dispenser, fancy stuff. You've got a light in a window, and then in the shower you have a rain head shower and 4 body sprays.
Whoa.
I thought that was a new thing, but it turns out rich people had it 100 and something years ago.
That is crazy.
So it's of a similar style-esque to what was downstairs.
Nice.
But because it's in the bathroom, it didn't have a lot of people type. Now this is more of the traditional size of a closet. And remember, this is a boy. So he would have maybe 1 suit coat he'd have to hang up.
Oh wow.
And his shirts would have been pressed, folded, and put in drawers. His pants would have been pressed, folded, and put in drawers. But he would have hats, because men were supposed to wear hats, so those would have been in there. So that's a more typical size closet. Mr. Swenson graduated from Southwestern in Georgetown, and he sent, at least the 2 oldest kids went to Georgetown, which means he was sending his daughter Evelyn in the 20s to university.
Wow.
Okay, now my grandmother did that too, but that was pretty dang unusual. Okay. Also, less unusual, Earl was allowed to go for 8 years. He was apparently having fun there. And when the daughter had been there a few years, they said, okay, that's enough. So, not as much.
Wow.
But yeah, you can buy those, like the train station and different ones. Around town, the historical buildings will have copies, and we have Swenson House. This is the 3 oldest, probably about the time that they moved into this house. Evelyn is their only girl at that point. You're going, what are you talking about? That's a girl? Nope. Until you were about 8, boys would have long hair. They would be put in dresses. Until you were 12, you would be in short pants.
Wow.
So you would not be in
That's
long
crazy.
pants. So this is a typical outfit of the time. They did take a trip out west, car trip, to Yellowstone, which is where these photographs are from. And it was definitely a thing that wealthy people would take car trips out to the national parks once they were built as national parks. That's not an original piece, but people found it and it's the right era. This is one of their shirts. It was folded up, and what would happen was they would bring them in a box like this. The collars were separate. Where we got white collar and blue collar, white collars would unhook because white collar workers would be inside and you would not wear your collar when you got home. So having your shirt like that would mean I'm at home, I'm not working, and you would put on your collar when you were working. Blue collar workers' outfits were made of denim. Their collars did not detach. That meant they were outside, less skilled. I mean, it depends on what you were doing,
Right.
okay? But the idea was you were outside working in the heat all the time as opposed to inside working. And that's where we got white and blue collar workers.
Oh, that's crazy.
So they had built-ins. This was the Swenson's bedroom, as long as he was alive. And again, we have things in the closet, but to see what size the closet.
Bigger closet.
Now remember, they built this for them, okay? And so Mr. Swenson would have had multiple hats, multiple suit coats that had to be hung
all
up.
kinds of stuff.
Because he'd have his ties that had to be hung up. So he had a bigger closet. And you're going, wait, he had a closet? Where'd she go? I'll show you that in a second. Okay. They also, this is where they slept in the summer. I don't know why they didn't sleep on the one downstairs, but they did not. This is where they slept in the summer. And this was added on in 28, and you can tell the difference in the wood widths.
Yeah.
These are the 1.5 inches, and these are 1 inch, and those are 1.5 inches. So they got the smaller, more expensive pieces. Although maybe at the time they were less expensive because they were smaller. But now, if you were replacing this would be the more expensive flooring.
Dang.
Because of the size. So they would open all the windows. They would bring out 6 iron cots. We still have a couple of those. And they would just all 6 sleep here.
That's crazy.
Because there's no air conditioning. It's hot as Hades out here.
Yeah.
So you'd have all the windows, you'd get all the breeze you could possibly get. And this was where you'd be the coolest for a
Right. For the
sleeping.
summer anyway.
Yes. Alright, I'll shut the door and come here because it's not in the AC. And this was Mrs. Swenson's dressing room.
Wow.
Now, after Mr. Swenson died, Mrs. Swenson did move into this and slept here. Prior to that, I don't know if this was their furniture already or if it was later. This was a style from the 40s, so they could have purchased it earlier. But she had a chaise lounge that was right there, and women were up. They're up at 5 o'clock. She's cooking breakfast for Mr. Swenson, for the kids. Then she's getting the kids off to school. Then she's cleaning the house. Then she's taking a nap. But no bed during the day. So she had a chaise lounge so she could take a nap. Okay. This is one of her dresses from like the 80s. So right before she died, and she would wear it. This is their chair, and it's very 80s. She had hat storage. Like I said, people donate tchotchkes, but this would have been hat storage. She had the drawers, more storage. We normally have a vignette set up in there, but we cannot find one of the pieces we usually use. And so we're still looking for it. Look at the detail on this.
That is incredible.
It's just so pretty. Wow. We do know that this light fixture was changed out, probably just the rim, in the 1828 renovation because, I know it's not really obvious to us, but 1922 Tutankhamun's tomb was found, so Egyptian was all the rage.
Oh, yeah.
So motifs that showed Egyptian,
Right.
and that's where that is. But, again, we're storing here. But this was one of her closets. And she had to change clothes a minimum of 3 times a day.
Whoa.
Because of lady fashions. So she also had another closet.
Wow. 2 closets.
And it goes to the wall. So it's fairly long, wide. But it's more traditional styling from the 50s. Even though this was built in the 10s. Okay. These are Mr. and Mrs. Swenson and Shug, their granddaughter who lived across the street. Don't know if this is their daughter or their granddaughter, because Dorothy, the baby, was born here. Also don't know if this is a family photo or somebody else. But the Paramours have kept they're a very wealthy ranching family from the area. They kept a lot of the family clothes and they donated them to the house, which is a museum. So this dressing gown would have been one of the Paramours, probably from the 40s or 50s. It would be what you would wear around the house as a woman. So if someone came, you could put that on over whatever you were cleaning in, and then you would look stylish, and no one expected you to be fancy, but that was still fancy enough. This is also a Paramour outfit, and it's obviously summer because it's thin muslin, but you still would have had 3 layers on underneath it, so it's not like it would have been cool. Those are, I believe, Mrs. Swenson's shoes. The hat is just there to give some color. It's not a period hat at all. Notice they had a bedroom and a dressing room and no bathroom. There was no ensuite for the Swensons. Okay. This was the family bathroom. The bathtub is original. The tiles are original. The paper is not original. They've added that. I don't believe the plastic seats are original. Obviously they had this was old and damaged because the silvering is coming off, okay? And it had the soap dispenser and then the medicine cabinet. I'm going to guess the toilet itself is original because it does match this yellow, but the seat obviously is not. Towel rack, and then the fake one, and then there, the
full shower effect.
And I was of the impression that these would have been kind of 50s tiles, but you can easily find them in the 1900s and 1910s. So these tiles are original, and they also had the linen closet for the towels and the toilet paper, and there's some tooth powder and old things from.
Oh my goodness.
Because people leave stuff and they don't ever clean out their spice drawers. That was a small electric heater for here. the radiator. I don't know if they didn't put a radiator in or if they had trouble with that one. That was a later addition that they put in that we took out because it doesn't work and it was dangerous. So, this was Evelyn's room, and the light is small enough that we've had trouble finding a light bulb that will
Light it up
enough. And fit, because as you see, it's kind of wonky.
Yeah.
Again, the clothes are from the era, but they're from the Paramours. This particular thing would have been something you would wear like to the opera or whatever, and that weighs about 15 pounds. Glass and mirrored beads.
Wow, that's crazy.
My goodness.
Okay, and the reason this is up is because they're starting to come apart because they're over 100 years old, and we don't want people messing with them. Because you can see where it was so heavy, it's pulling against the underpiece, right? And then one bead gets loose and you lose a whole set of rows. So we haven't previously done these little things, but with the vignettes with the clothes, we're kind of worried about the clothes.
Yeah, I don't want
So,
no.
yes. But the dresses, while they're not, they do not belong to the Swensons. They were definitely what the Swensons would have been wearing in the era, because they may not. I don't know if they were as rich as the Paramours. I just don't know. But also, I know that they did not keep their clothes. Right? Some folks wear their clothes till they wear out, and then some people get new clothes more often.
And the coat is.
And the coat is also from the 20s and from the Paramours. And remember, this was supposed to be Evelyn's room. So there's a bookshelf behind that little closet over there. It's a bookshelf with her reading area. And she got a girl-size closet because, like her mother, she would be expected to change clothes at least twice a day.
Right.
And again, most of the clothes are from the Paramours. All right, so we have clothes that are very 80s, all right, but we also have bolero jackets from the 20s. We have don't fall off. We have cape pieces that were worn, little kids outfits from different eras, just not the main eras of the house, so they're not out.
Right.
And then she would have had her hats, and we do have hats up here, and we have the boxes for hats from like Thornton's department store in Abilene. And it's a cool collection, not as necessarily as relevant. We got the prettiest stuff out, but it shows how many clothes you could get in that closet. And I stood in there while you were taking pictures, right? I wasn't just, there's room, okay? Make the chair look nicer, and so people won't sit in it. Because the upstairs,
built into the wall.
yes, it is. The upstairs, a lot of the furniture is more fragile, so we try to keep people from sitting in it. Most of the downstairs furniture is not as fragile. Yeah, this is the sheets linen closet. And we actually have some replacement pieces for the bathroom because they kept them, and also because we ordered some at some point. I don't know when. This was the laundry chute that we saw downstairs. This is the upstairs version.
Wow.
And then this room was originally intended, I believe, to be Mrs. Swenson's sewing room. But when Dorothy was born, they turned it into the nanny's room. We've set up vignettes of different things because, you know, what are we going to do with it like this? But people come up here and go, wow, she didn't get much space. No, she was from Sweden. This would have been good if this had been her space in Sweden. Okay, because the houses are smaller. She probably would have had multiple siblings. She might have had the space and been sharing. To her, this would have been a huge room, okay?
The double size of
So,
what they would have had.
yes, you've got a big room, you've got the chair that was here when she was here, you've got the ironing board, and the cedar closet, which while she was here would have been, they probably would have put their winter coats in here, but also it would have been big enough for her to hang her stuff. And it would have made her feel at home, right? Because they've got the saunas and they've got, well, yeah, that's trippable. We're going to have to move that because everybody will trip on it. And the armoire. So she had plenty of space.
Oh, yeah.
It was not a small area for her. And I honestly, I've had a bedroom smaller than this.
Right.
So, you know, I don't really think it's super small. People just think, oh, well, it was the nanny's room, so they didn't make it big. No, that was not intended function. Its intended function was this. All right, so yeah, you want to talk?
Oh. Okay.
I don't have anything else up here. I just wanted to ask if you had any questions for it.
That area down out there, that used to be the garden, or?
Yeah, and we'll go out there for a minute. There are some things. When the APL got the house, now remember, Mrs. Swenson lived here till she was unable to get upstairs. So in the 60s, there was an electric lift put on the stairs so she could come upstairs. And when she died, her son moved home from New York. He retired from the Library of Congress, moved home and moved back in. When he died in 1990, the rest of the kids were in California or Florida, had plenty of money, didn't want the house, but didn't want to lose the house. Right. So they offered the house to the Abilene Preservation League. And the Abilene Preservation League had it until 2018 or 2019, when they decided that it had come up with sufficient fundraising to split it off into its own thing. Okay, so there is a closet behind you. If you open it up, that was where, you can't tell, but that's where the iron cots went. Big enough you could put the iron cots, stack them in there.
And then this was another little storage
And this is another little, I don't even remember what it is, but, oh, it's probably plumbing.
Oh, okay.
Because it's small enough, but that was probably just electricity. It probably would have been something like the vents, you know. Yeah. Do be careful when you're coming down here. The ceilings are very low, okay? I mean, I almost hit my head around a lot of times.
Yeah, that last one's kind of low.
And the floors are original. The carpets and the rugs are non-original because they wear out, so we replace them with similar styles from the period or similar styles that are as close to the period as we can. And okay, we're going to go look at the outside. So let's do that from in here, but let me turn off the other light. I'll remember the front lights so that I can let you out that way, but I might not remember this right. So people tell me that Mrs. Swenson was not that big of a gardener. And now it's locked because I don't like being in here myself. Right. But this whole block was theirs, right?
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter if she wasn't a gardener, she still would have been out here doing stuff. They did have a lot of pecans. Unfortunately, we've even lost pecans since we've had the house.
Oh, wow.
Because they're old.
Yeah.
And they, you get a really bad storm, the lightning's going to go for the tallest thing first.
Yeah.
So, Big Country Gardeners has set this up, and they come out and work, Luann and Laura and the Big Country Gardeners. But we've got these gorgeous iris beds. The swings, actually, people come from the neighborhood and swing on them all the time. This wisteria that's just starting to bloom, Mrs. Swenson planted that. It's the only thing we know for sure she personally planted. We know the crepe myrtles she didn't plant because those have been added since we lost the pecans.
Right.
Okay, they make the house look pretty and they're easy to take care of. She is still around, but she worked with the APL and with the Swenson House, and he's put it in May.
Right.
In 85, she's 85 now, but she was the one who did all the tours. She's the one who made sure everything was working.
Right.
Well, you know, eventually you want to not answer the phone every day,
Yeah.
not do the email, not do
Right.
whatever. And so that was hers. We're going to have a matching one put here for Martin Jensen. He was behind the APL's acceptance of the house as a project. Also, when the house could afford to take care of itself, he encouraged the APL to spin it off.
Sounds tough, huh? Reconstructed concrete. Oh, they even have a chandelier out here. So this was their, I guess, their kind of gardening spot. Little paths to walk through here. Some nice stone bench over here. There's some stone bench right here. There's a swing on the tree. Little bird bath over here. Then we go back around this way. We've got another little stone bench here. Got a couple little deers over here. Not sure what this is. Okay, it's a sign. This is the Big Country Master Gardeners Project. We have a few more stone benches. Alright guys, that's going to conclude our tour of the Swenson House. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, please subscribe, like, follow, and share. Please share the video. We appreciate you watching, and you guys have a nice day. Thank you very much.